want to welcome you all to Virginia City and the 1876 Virginia and Truckee Railroad Freight Depot. This was built after the fire in October of 1875, after they had the big fire here. This whole area was burned, so the freight depot, the passenger shed, and the new passenger depot, which is one down where the Dayton is, was all built after the fire of 1875. So this is the only building left up here from that era, basically. Everything else has been torn down and gone. All the mines, of course, are gone. The hotel over here was where the CNC was. And Con Virginia, yeah, I'm sorry, Con Virginia. And the assay office was right over here. When I first came up here many years ago, you could still see a lot of that over there. That's all been torn down and rebuilt into that, whatever's over here now. Pierce, where's Pierce? This is Pierce over here. He owns this building.
Good morning, Pierce.
He's been here, he's probably been here since what, dirt? Dirt. And if you want to buy it, he'll sell it to you, right?
Yeah. The county thinks they want it, but it's been going on for a couple of years now.
Yeah. So, but anyway, this and Pierce, we were up here what, 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago maybe, and Pierce is kind enough to let us come in here and look around and get some good pictures and stuff. But you can see the construction of how this building was built. Somebody asked about the doors, how the doors go up. They go vertically up, not sideways, okay? So that's kind of a neat picture of this building. Also, the Gold Hill Depot was done that same way. And I'm pretty sure, I think the Carson Depot freight house, right? Dave?
I don't know.
You built it. He modeled it. But anyway, I think the doors, what they did up here and what they did in Carson was basically the same type of door, the vertical type freight door, okay? And you notice on this side over here would be where the tracks are. This side over here would be where they would unload to the cars. And there's a Fairbanks Morse scale. Where is it? Down here in the middle?
On the left.
On the left over here? So where they would weigh everything? Yeah. The office was down at the end. There was a room upstairs where they lived, okay? And I think the handout here gives you a little bit more history. The drawings are in there that I did a few years ago when we first came up here and did the presentation, okay? So if you don't have a handout, we have some more back there on the table.
Our schedule for the morning, and then we're done at noon today. Michael gave you kind of quick overview of this depot. And before I introduce Pierce to kind of give us answers perhaps some of your questions, Michael kind of covered it. The big Virginia City fire here, of course, was on October the 26th of 1875, and it just literally tore through the heart of downtown Virginia City. We've read the letters of H.M. Yarrington, and he was really mad at the sheriff, who basically cordoned the fire area off and wouldn't let any of Yarrington's people go in to try and salvage what they could. And so the company always said on their annual reports, we don't know what the paid capital stock of the company is or how much the directors originally paid for their stock, because unfortunately all those records were lost in the great Virginia City fire of October 26, 1875. We now know that Yarrington had his office in Carson City, and he kept his own set of books and ledgers. And while most of the records in Virginia City were destroyed during that fire, and the vault was burned as well, there were some additional records that still do go back to the 1860s that were preserved at other depots, and particularly down at the office down in Carson City. Well, the fire tore through in October, but it was towards the tail end of the bonanza, and there was a great impetus to rebuild Virginia City and to rebuild the V&T facilities. Fortunately, no engines or V&T cars were lost, but for some reason or other, they weren't able to quite get out every single one of the Central Pacific cars. So 10 Central Pacific cars were lost in that fire. Yarrington bundled up the hardware and they shipped it back down to Sacramento, and they had to make good on those cars. But fortunately, we didn't lose anything on the V&T equipment roster. How quickly was it rebuilt? I have the payroll for December of 1875. and less than 5 weeks after the fire, they've got a wood platform on the ground. There are 14 men on the payroll, because you can imagine how much material they're bringing in here to rebuild not only the V&T's facilities, but the heart of Virginia City, the mines, to get them reopened again. And so we say it's built in 1876. A large part of it was starting to be framed in December of 75, and it was actually completed in early 1876. It's fun to look at some of the graffiti on the walls. You know, graffiti is not a new phenomenon. And Old Gold Hill Depot is much the same way, and we've gone through and identified many of the people who signed their name and dated it, that they were agents here, or they worked in the loading platform or unloading platform. And graffiti has been with us, obviously, for 140 years. The only thing that has changed is instead of a spray can, they used to do it hand lettering it with a brush and black ink. But some of that is quite interesting to take a look at. Obviously, the depot opened back up in 1876. The last official V&T trains up here were in 38, and the V&T owned the property. Many don't realize that the Virginia and Truckee Railway was still in existence as Nevada Corporation until 1963, and they owned many properties like this, much of the right-of-way, and were in the business for, after they closed, for about 13 years, just selling off many of the assets of the V&T, and they were finally able to market this property and several others in the early 60s before they dissolved. So we're very fortunate that this building still survives. They rented it out for a variety of purposes. The building, and there's now about 2.5 acres of property here as well that Pierce have and his partner Terry Ward. So without further ado, I think you have most of the information about just a quick overview of the depot. I'd like to introduce the proprietor and our host today, and that's Mr. Pierce Powell. Pierce?
Well, I have a present here for you. You were just going to mention that a green roof, possibility of a green roof on this building.
Yes.
Well, what we got here is the last of the original